Welcome to our incredible community members who have joined us for this wonderful conference. While the pandemic has limited in-person interaction, it expanded the possibilities of how we can engage and educate. Rather than get bogged down with these challenges, we took the opportunity to embrace our creativity and remain even more accessible than ever before through digital resources like StandWithUs TV, our social media, educational videos, virtual trips to Israel, hundreds of educational sessions on relevant topics, and of course, virtual conferences like this one. Thank you for trusting us to provide you with well-rounded, informative, and thought-provoking conferences like this, even from the comfort of your own home. For the next hour and a half, we'll be highlighting the work of some of our departments so we can learn from their challenges and their opportunities and discuss how you can get involved with their work. Let's begin with the Stand With Us High School Department, which is designed to empower high school student leaders and prepare them for college. Through the Stand With Us Kenneth Leventhal High School Internship, or the Teen Leadership Council, TLC, through their work with Jewish day schools and public schools, and through their collaboration with youth groups, JCCs, synagogues, and more, the Stand With Us High School Department is training and mentoring the next generation of campus leaders. We are excited to introduce a panel with two of our phenomenal Stand With Us Kenneth Leventhal High School interns, Ethan Gaifman from the Midwest region and Liam Rosenberg from Southern California, who will be joined by Liz Tsai, Executive Director of High School Affairs, and Kate Chavez, National Associate Director of High School Affairs. We will also hear from a Kenneth Leventhal alum, Melina Faragini, and this impressive group is going to shed light on anti-Semitism in high school and how they are combating it one incident and one day at a time.
Thank you, Roz, for your incredible support and for the fabulous introduction. Stand With Us High School is dedicated to educating, equipping, and empowering high school students across North America with the knowledge and tools they need to tell Israel's story and fight anti-Semitism in their schools and communities. During the pandemic, the high school department has been flexible and creative to keep our students engaged and prepared for the new challenges arising on social media and in their schools. Despite all of these challenges of the pandemic, for the 2020 academic year, Stand With Us High School empowered over 126,000 students across North America.
It's been a year since our last international conference, where we updated you on the Ethnic Studies Model Curriculum Challenge here in California. Since that conversation, the model curriculum was adopted by the California State Board of Education as a resource to help schools across the state teach ethnic studies. Assembly Bill 101, which would make ethnic studies a required course for California high school students graduating in the year 2029 to 2030, was signed into law this year as well. While our work is changing, we have the same focus as before, advocating for quality education about Jews and anti-Semitism to be included in the classroom and keeping hatred and bias out. We knew that after the state level model curriculum was adopted, a lot of our work would be in local school districts in California. We focused on building relationships and growing our network across the state to be best equipped with local challenges and to take advantage of our educational opportunities. We're also working at a state and local level in other parts of the country where ethnic studies and other education-related challenges are rising up. Here in California, our team has met with educators, elected officials, and other stakeholders on numerous occasions, whether it's in the Los Angeles Unified School District, in Fullerton School District, San Diego Unified School District, and many more, making sure that the materials that they're including in their classrooms do not promote one-sided biased materials that can harm our community. As we continue this fight, we've invited Melina Faragini, a Stand With Us Kenneth Leventhal High School intern alumni and current student leader at USC, to speak with us. Melina was heavily involved in the activism that led to the inclusion of Jews within the state level ethnic studies model curriculum. And even now, as a college student, Melina continues to advocate for her community.
Hello, everyone. I am Melina Faragini, and it is an honor to be speaking with you today. As the daughter of Iranian Jewish immigrants, I have heard stories of the anti-Semitism my family faced in Iran my entire life. My father shared stories with me of the physical abuse, verbal attacks, and discrimination he and his friends experienced because they were Jewish living under an oppressive regime. Because of my family's personal experiences less than 50 years ago, I knew it was important to work with Stand With Us in order to make sure that quality education about Jews and anti-Semitism would be included in the ethnic studies model curriculum and in classrooms across the state of California. Over the past year, I have joined in on countless California State and Los Angeles Unified School Board meetings to urge the officials to take action that will protect Jewish students from bias in the classroom, including fighting for the International Holocaust Remembrance definition of anti-Semitism, and fighting for education that represents the Jewish community in the state-level curriculum. In addition to speaking to board members personally, I have also mobilized my friends, family, and even former high school teachers to make their own voices heard by elected and education officials. As Stand With Us says, education is the road to peace. This is what we have been working towards this past year and continue to strive for as we advocate for an unbiased education about Jews and anti-Semitism to be included in the ethnic studies model curriculum. I am now a Jewish student leader in college at USC, and I will continue to fight for Jewish representation in public high schools and beyond.
Melina, thank you so much. We all want to thank you for continuing to stand up for the Jewish people. While Melina advocates for our community in Los Angeles, Liam Rosenberg, a Stand With Us Kenneth Leventhal high school intern, is helping protect Jewish students in San Diego. With the support of incredible partners on the ground, Stand With Us has successfully mobilized community members and students to call for the adoption of resolutions in their San Diego high schools, including in San Diego Unified, San Diego, and in Sweetwater. All of these boards have adopted and passed resolutions meant to protect Jewish students from anti-Semitism. Liam has led the charge in San Diego. Liam, please tell us about your work.
Thanks for having me, Kate. My name is Liam Rosenberg, and I'm a Stand With Us Kenneth Leventhal high school intern at Canyon Crest Academy in San Diego. We recently faced a concerning rise of anti-Semitic incidents in our community, including the vandalism of our neighboring district high school, Torrey Pines High School, with swastikas. We recognized that change was imperative for the safety of our Jewish students. After a blatantly anti-Israel article was published in the Canyon Crest School magazine, I organized a group of around 40 students to petition the school administration in person. We were fortunate enough to have done so after a parent-led coalition in partnership with Stand With Us enacted Peer K-12, a district-wide initiative combating anti-Semitism as a separate form of discrimination. From this, we highlighted the school's lack of attention to Jewish students, which specifically neglected policy laid out by Peer K-12. We opened a dialogue with the school and held sessions with representatives from the ADL and, of course, Stand With Us. We also generated a community response and organized a week wearing blue in solidarity with Canyon Crest's Jewish community. Overall, this experience has amplified the Jewish voice at school, and it's large part thanks to Peer K-12.
Thank you so much, Liam. We're so proud of the work that you've accomplished. Our work in San Diego is only one example of proactive efforts to support and protect Jewish students from anti-Semitism and increase education about our community in public schools. The Fullerton School District in Orange County will be sharing educational resources on International Holocaust Remembrance Day after meeting with Stand With Us staff members. Richmond County School District in Georgia is planning to share resources with their students about anti-Semitism and the Jewish community after meeting with our staff. In Weston Public Schools in Massachusetts, our staff members are working with school board personnel to increase education about anti-Semitism across their high schools. As you can see, Stand With Us is dedicated to ensuring high school students understand historical and present-day anti-Semitism.
Unfortunately, over the last couple of years, Jewish students have been increasingly isolated by their peers and even authority figures, such as teachers and administrators in their schools. While the majority of anti-Semitic incidents in the high school space stems from ignorance, misinformation, apathy, and/or peer pressure, unfortunately, there has been a rise in anti-Semitism stemming from hatred. During the escalation between Israel and Hamas in May 2021, this cultural isolation developed into outright hostility as Jewish students were held responsible for Israel's perceived crimes against Palestinians by their uninformed peers. Jewish teens were shocked to see non-Jewish peers from their schools posting and sharing content on social media that was riddled with misinformation at best and outright anti-Semitism at worst. Prior to the situation in May 2021, these peers had shown no interest in Israel or the conflict, which indicated that they allied themselves with the anti-Israel position without doing any research or fact-checking the information they were seeing on social media. Therefore, it seemed to Jewish teens that their non-Jewish peers were motivated by a desire to be on the right side of history through their virtue signaling, while blatantly ignoring the Jewish-Israeli experience or how their Jewish peers might be impacted. Other areas where Jewish teens experienced anti-Semitism on social media was through doxing, which occurs when a Jewish person's contact information and personal addresses are shared publicly and having their social media accounts reported for sharing pro-Israel content. Overall, the Jewish teen experience at public and non-Jewish private schools was also negatively impacted by the escalation in May 2021. Jewish teens heard chants of Allahu Akbar from their peers, while teachers chose not to intervene. Non-Jewish peers described Israel as a genocidal state in the classroom. Articles written by students that were published in the school newspaper described Israel as an apartheid regime, and Zionism was portrayed as a colonial movement. Israel Club meetings have been monitored by anti-Israel teachers, and there were a few instances where a Jewish student's proposal to establish an Israel Club was rejected by the administration for being too political. Other acts of anti-Semitism include swastikas being drawn in the bathroom in public schools or spray painted on Jewish day schools. Some public schools have chosen not to educate about the Jewish American experience, the conflict, or the Holocaust, because these topics were deemed too controversial. Jewish students faced the choice of conforming to the popular view of Israel or be ostracized for supporting it. This has resulted in some Jewish teens choosing to transfer to a Jewish day school rather than face the continued isolation and anti-Semitism from their peers in their public or non-Jewish private high school. In each of the examples mentioned, StandWithUs has worked directly with the student to provide support, take action at the school, and bring education to change the culture there. From May through December 2021, StandWithUs supported teens in 54 incidents requiring an educational and/or legal response. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing you to Ethan Gaifman, a StandWithUs Kenneth Leventhal high school intern from the Midwest region who witnessed and experienced anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism in his high school and community and chose to take action. Ethan, please introduce yourself and describe what you experienced in May 2021, as well as what action you decided to take.
Thank you so much for the introduction. My name is Ethan Gaifman, and I am a Kenneth Leventhal high school intern at Bettendorf High School in Bettendorf, Iowa. Currently, I'm the only Jewish student out of 1,230 kids at my high school. Being the only Jewish student is hard, especially with the most recent conflict. I experienced hate from a level I've never seen before at my high school. Peers yelling Al Akbar to me in the hallway as I walked by, even full of teachers, and the teachers did nothing. I was bombarded with anti-Semitic posts on Instagram and other social medias. Lastly, I was all around being blamed for the conflict just because I was Jewish. I knew I had to do something, so I contacted StandWithUs, and they were there to help. I was able to write up a letter for my school's administrative team, and all the issues were addressed immediately. I couldn't have done it without StandWithUs.
What did you learn from this experience that you think our community members should know as they support Jewish teens, whether as grandparents, parents, or maybe as leaders in their local Jewish community?
If you want to support the Jewish teens, be patient. It's unfortunately hard growing up Jewish, so be supportive and provide a space where they can meet other Jewish youth, like overnight camps and other after-school programs.
Can you share about the proactive initiative you are developing in your community?
StandWithUs believes that education is the road to peace. Currently, I'm working with the StandWithUs team on creating a presentation where I can present to local churches around the state of Iowa and Western Illinois. The presentation will highlight the importance of Israel for all. Then they will be able to stand up for Israel wherever they go.
For the fall semester 2021, Stand With Us High School hosted 371 educational programs and reached 37,656 students. As we begin the spring semester, we are turning our attention to the future. Our students will be prepared to bring Holocaust education to their communities and to introduce the IRA definition of anti-Semitism to their schools. While our students are well equipped to combat anti-Semitism on their high school campuses, we will now focus on training and empowering them to fight anti-Israel trends on their future college campuses.
It's hard to believe that Ethan and Liam are only in high school. They are so impressive. They are dealing with very real challenges, but are committed to overcoming them with support from our teams. Our Stand With Us Kenneth Leventhal High School internship does an incredible job training high school students to become leaders and preparing them for what's ahead on campus. Once they get to college, these students take on leadership roles within the Jewish and pro-Israel communities and continue to make an impact. Thanks to the tireless work of the high school department, our high school internship alumni, like Melina, become incredible assets within the campus space. Our college students deal with a brand new set of challenges when it comes to anti-Semitism, which is where our campus department comes in. For nearly 2 decades, Stand With Us campus has empowered students to proudly foster meaningful connections to Israel and has taught them how to combat anti-Semitism on campus. Our dedicated teams provide students with the tools they need to be strong leaders and share Israel with the diverse communities on their campuses. We equip them with an understanding of their rights on campus and strategize ways that they can make a huge impact. One of the premier resources within our campus department is the Stand With Us Emerson Fellowship, a prestigious 1-year program that trains, educates, and empowers student leaders on campuses throughout the United States, Canada, the UK, and Brazil. Chosen from over 150 campuses, these fellows form an international network of trained student leaders who inspire their peers and collaborate with other student groups to run effective educational events about Israel and to respond to anti-Israel campaigns. Exceptional graduates of the fellowship have the opportunity to become campus liaisons, where they contribute to the national efforts of the campus department and mentor students within the Stand With Us network on a peer-to-peer level. We are excited to introduce you to 3 incredible Emerson Fellowship alumni and current campus liaisons, Abigail Yossian from USC, Tomer Anjeko from University of Michigan, and Allegra Timsit from CUNY Brooklyn College. I will be leading a conversation with all 3 of them as they share how they're standing up to hate on their campuses. Tomer Anjeko is a senior at the University of Michigan studying economics and international studies. Throughout his time at Michigan, he's been involved with the board of Chabad on campus and Wolverines for Israel. Allegra Timsit is a junior at CUNY Brooklyn College studying political science. She is currently the president of United for Israel, the pro-Israel club on her campus. Abigail Yossian is a senior at the University of Southern California studying communications and music industry. Being an advocate for Israel on her college campus has played an integral part in her college experience. As she graduates, she plans to further find ways to stand up for Israel. Let's start with the first question. What anti-Israel campaigns have you seen on your campus, and have you seen change over the time that you've been on campus? Who wants to start?
So during my first 2 years here at the University of Michigan, I definitely knew of anti-Israel groups like Students for Justice in Palestine and the things that they do on campus, like putting up the apartheid wall in the middle of the central area where all the students pass on campus. But I hadn't heard anything since before I came to college that came directly from the student government. And during this past summer, after the short war between Israel and Hamas, the student government put out a very bad anti-Israel statement endorsing the boycott movement, BDS, as well as calling Israel an apartheid state and settler colonialist and all the common buzzwords that these groups like to use. It's become clear that this current administration of student government is going to remain like this throughout this year. We hope to stop them, but the trend has changed for sure.
I'm gonna go next. I'm gonna share a story from this past year. Yom HaShoah, we had an amazing day. We volunteered to give flowers to Holocaust survivors with cookies and challah for Shabbat. And in the nighttime, we had a following event where we had a Holocaust speaker come on Zoom and share their story about the Holocaust and what they went through. During the Zoom event, we unfortunately had a Zoom bomber, which is somebody who hacked into our Zoom and started showing pornography and racist slurs, and were writing in the chat boxes as different peoples. And it was really like a hurtful thing to be hearing the Holocaust survivor speaking. Thank God she didn't know what was going on. And seeing these images and seeing what's going on, and it's a problem that we should be alarming and should be fixed.
Following up, I think at the University of Southern California, the main trend I've seen regarding anti-Israel and anti-Semitic activity on my campus has definitely been social media, whether it's cyberbullying or doxing or hateful posts. That's majority of the anti-Israel activity that we're seeing at USC. So on the bright side, this shows that that the campus population is not comfortable being anti-Semitic face-to-face, but rather resort to the comfort behind a screen. But yeah, this trend definitely has not changed since my time at USC. Yeah, whether it's been Rose Rich being forced to step down from her vice president student body position due to cyberbullying, or more recently, a diversity and inclusion senator at Viterbi Graduate School tweeting anti-Semitic things.
Thank you all for sharing those stories. So what did your community, or what is your community doing about all of this? And your campus community, the community outside of campus, and what is the most effective? What do you think is the most effective response to all of these issues?
So on my campus, what we did directly in response to the statement put out by the student government, we had a couple of Hillel student organization leaders that I was involved with, and we tried to get a group together to speak on Zoom. It was at the time at the community concerns portion of the next student government meeting. And even though we were outnumbered by quite a lot from us giving our perspective and point of view, I think we did a great job at showing them that there is a strong pro-Israel voice on this campus. And we aren't going to let them act like this without hearing us. And I think it's really important in the future for those kinds of issues, especially because we want to stop any resolution that has to do with the boycott movement later on in this year, that we try to build relationships with the student government members, whether or not it's this year or in the coming years. That's definitely a way that I think these things can be prevented in the future.
Yeah, just following my story from the last question. So right after the Zoom meeting, we all the student leaders of Hillel and Brooklyn College jumped on a separate Zoom meeting to discuss, and right away put together a letter condoning what had happened and saying that we don't take any responsibility for it. And I think that's very important because it's what we are all here right now to do. We're here to take action. And I think, for my own advice, the best thing that anybody could do after any type of anti-Semitic or anti-Israel incident is to mobilize and take action and leadership.
These experiences have always brought the USC pro-Israel community together. The Trojan family is immensely strong, and we also have a very strong Jewish population on campus. So, of course, we as per Allegra and Tomer mentioned, we definitely mobilized and all got together and not only supported either the individual who was targeted or just all banded together to support each other. And yeah, we just really aim to continue to be proactive and in terms of all the hatred that we find on campus.
Thank you all. So it's so important that you gather the network on campus and make sure that you're not alone. And hopefully Stand With Us is helping you all the time, every step of the way that you need us. What's it like to be an Emerson Fellow?
As a Stand With Us Emerson Fellow, I didn't get the full experience of meeting other fellows from around the country in person due to COVID, which I regret, but I was able to get to know Stand With Us leaders like Rena, Leora, and the Midwest coordinator, Rebecca, and of course, Raz, who runs everything. And they introduced me to all the amazing resources that Stand With Us has to offer for campus activism. There isn't a time now when I'm trying to help planning an event or ways to respond to anti-Israel actions, where I don't think about the foundation that I learned as a Stand With Us Emerson Fellow and go back and look at the Stand With Us resources. And I think that for these reasons, the Emerson Fellowship is something that every pro-Israel college student should definitely look into. It will help tremendously.
To me, being an Emerson Fellow, I'm not even trying to sugarcoat this or sell it in any way, but the Emerson Fellowship was really the best experience that I could ever have. And it really brought me to where I am today. And even just being here right now, I learned such key skills on how to run events and how to run a club and be a president of a club and how everything just gets put together.
My experience as a Stand With Us Emerson Fellow has truly been unlike no other. The confidence that comes with knowing that you have all the resources and experts and support you need to take on any issue is really a game changer when fighting anti-Semitism on campus. When any issue came up, no matter how big or small, I was able to reach out to my liaisons, my campus coordinators, and other fellow Emerson Fellows to receive the support and materials that I needed, whether it be speakers, pamphlets, or just a shoulder to lean on.
Thank you all. It's really a pleasure to hear that it's helpful to you to have that Emerson Fellowship partnership, because that's what we all hope for you. Is there any way that you can be proactive on campus to avoid anti-Semitism or to avoid these anti-Semitic campaigns? What things can we be doing on campus that can be helpful?
So my opinion on this is that I definitely think that there are ways to be proactive, but there are some times that you can't stop the anti-Semitism from happening. There are groups that exist, like we were talking about, SJP, the Students for Justice in Palestine. Those groups are going to continue to exist. And frankly, it's a waste of time to focus specifically on stopping them before they do what they're going to do. And I think that the best way to be proactive, regardless of what they do, is to focus on controlling the narrative around Israel in your campus. I think a lot of events that I've seen over the years, and I think my campus has gotten much better at this, is events usually are like, Israel is not bad because, in reaction to something that someone said, rather than having events that can really show that Israel really is good and amazing and everything that we know and love about Israel in different events. And Stand With Us has many new events and things that always come out to help doing that. And I think that that's the best way to get more and more students involved. And once they're involved, they'll be more ready to help and defend Israel in situations that come up, like anti-Semitism. So sometimes it's just not possible to stop the actions from occurring, but we can definitely help control the narrative.
I do want to agree with what Tomer just said. Sometimes it's not possible, and no matter how much you prepare, like, they will always come at you with things that you won't expect. But in my personal opinion, if you do want to try putting your 2 cents in to stop it however you can, is definitely join pro-Israel and Jewish clubs and organizations and just become part of the community. just for me personally, having a base that I could always lean back on and ask for advice. And if something happens, they're always there for you. It's a really good thing to have. And another key that I really want to stress is joining the student government. I, as a student senator at my college, feel great to know that if something, chas v'shalom, were to come up, I'm like such as boycott, divest, and sanction, I'll be there to stop it, and I'll bring awareness to the situation at hand.
I just love to second what Tomer and Allegra said. They're very, very great answers, but I also think as well there are definitely many ways that students can be pro-Israel when it comes to can be proactive when it comes to campus anti-Semitism. Firstly, building meaningful and genuine relationships on campus is a huge help, whether it be with other students or clubs, student organizations. It's really, really helpful. And thus, after these relationships are solidified, if anything anti-Israel does arise on campus, these relationships can be turned into allyships. And thus, you have a huge community standing behind you if anything arises. And secondly, I think building relationships with administrators can also prove to be very, very beneficial in situations like these, as they're willing to vouch for you and stand behind you as well. And lastly, I think passing the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's definition of anti-Semitism onto our campus is a huge, huge step when it comes to being proactive with campus anti-Semitism. Just a bit of a background, the definition states that anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism are very, very similar and overlap in a lot of situations, or most situations, and thus adopting that definition can be really, really beneficial in taking action and being proactive on college campuses.
Fantastic, really great answers, you guys. And it's clear that you're leaders on campus and how important that is to establish a network and really do what you can to make sure that you're ready when things happen, because we know things are going to happen. How can people that are watching you right now, how can they be helpful?
So I think that the biggest thing that the campus Israel community and the Jewish community at large needs is more students who want to step up and take on roles in their Chabad, Hillel, Israel groups, Stand With Us, anything like that, because anti-Semitism is on the rise in the country and in the world. And we know that we have the truth on our side, but we really just need more people to go out and make sure people hear that truth coming from us. And being here at this conference for students, like I was here my freshman year, is an amazing opportunity for them to learn what Stand With Us has to offer and bring back an amazing foundation to work from when they get back to school. Like this year as a senior, it's crazy to think that I'm almost graduating, but I've seen so many freshmen that come into campus knowing exactly what they are looking for in being involved with Israel. And I know that that's happening around the country and the world, and that Stand With Us is a major part of that.
One thing that I could ask from everybody watching right now is to really advocate, whether it's your children or family friends or family members, just really try getting students on college campuses involved. Even for yourself, if you see something on social media that looks like you should take action, repost it, share with your friends. Any type of action and engagement, and guess it helps so much more than you even know.
Thank you, Tomer and Allegra, for your really amazing answers. And I'd just like to echo what they mentioned. But yeah, really encouraging your children, your grandchildren, family, friends, whoever it is entering a college campus, to really get involved with their greater pro-Israel and Jewish community is really amazing. There's no such thing as, two little voices, and it can be really, really helpful. In addition, I think when it comes to you yourself, I think no act is too small, whether that's signing petitions, reading articles, or reposting different campuses' social media campaigns is really a huge help. And once again, thank you all so much for wanting to help and for your enthusiasm. It really, really provides us students with an immense level of comfort knowing that we have such a strong community behind us.
Allegra, Abigail, and Tomer, thank you for your important work on campus as you stand up to hate, and we applaud your accomplishments. Emerson Fellows take on a big responsibility of leading their communities and engaging thousands of their peers because they have the confidence and the support from Stand With Us to make that happen. We are here for our students throughout their journey, even after they graduate from their Emerson Fellowship. Our brand new alumni network offers our Emerson Fellowship alums a platform to stay in touch with each other and with Stand With Us. The network offers leadership communities, events, firsthand access to jobs in the field, and so much more. Thank you. All of this talk about what's happening on campus can leave us asking, how can each of us help? How can we get involved in fighting anti-Semitism and supporting Israel within the campus space? It's my pleasure to introduce Avi Gordon, the Executive Director of Alums for Campus Fairness, that's ACF, who will share how you can take an active role in changing hearts and minds on campus. Avi is a longtime member of the Stand With Us family. He is one of our first campus coordinators. We are delighted to have him with us here today to talk about the role that alumni, that you can and should play at your alma maters. Avi, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. My name is Avi Gordon, and I am the Executive Director of Alums for Campus Fairness. So glad that so many of you have been able to join Stand With Us's international conference once again this year. Alums for Campus Fairness is a proud partner of Stand With Us. We work hand in hand to help counter anti-Semitism, bigotry, and anti-Israel rhetoric on campuses, and in our case, through the lens of alumni. We have over 50 chapters across the country with more than 24,000 members within our network. With our multiple thousands of alumni across the country, we're able to position alumni like never before to help counter what is going on campuses today. Unfortunately, as we all know, campus anti-Semitism is on the rise, and alumni have a seat at the table and need to speak out. As alumni or as a parent of a current student, you're welcome to join us and to join our network at campusfairness.org. At Alums for Campus Fairness, we're happy to be able to work with so many partners, organizations, and lay leaders. Our lay leaders help our staff put together petitions that are forward-facing, that put pressure on administrations to make a change. And we also work behind the scenes and have backdoor conversations with administrations, members of boards of trustees, presidents, provosts, et cetera, across the board on college campuses. A lot of times universities don't understand the true negative impact that happens to students on campuses. And as alumni who have a seat at the table, it is our job to be able to stand up for students in support of them. So we're here in tandem with Stand With Us, in tandem with our many partners on the ground to help support those who are pro-Israel, those who are Jewish, to help counter the tide of what's going on campuses. We're proud to be able to work with thousands of alumni, as I said before. And we also recently came out over the summer with a survey that surveyed current students and recent alumni, ages of 18 to 28, about their views on anti-Semitism. Unfortunately, what we saw was that nearly everyone has either personally experienced or knows someone who's personally experienced anti-Semitism of some form on campus. Our job is critical today, and Stand With Us is a core part of the solution. In partnership, we're able to work together and we're able to make a difference. So please join us, whether you are an alum yourself of any university or you have children or grandchildren who are a part of the university experience. Join Alums for Campus Fairness to get in the know and be a part of our leadership. I thank you all for being here, and we look forward to working with you all in the future.
Thank you, Avi, for showing us how we can have an impact on campus. All of you can get involved with your alma maters through ACF chapters or even start one. It's as simple as just reaching out to the team at ACF. All of the full variety of steps are important to the work at Stand With Us. Just like when Stand With Us realized the need to create a wonderful high school department, when we recognize that we cannot wait until our students arrive on campus to begin working with them. In that same way, Stand With Us executives realized that our work had to begin even younger, that it was critical to reach the students even before high school. So we began expanding our work to middle school in 2015. Now, to give us an update on the work of our innovative middle school program, please welcome the Stand With Us National Director of our middle school department, Mina Rush.
Hi, my name is Mina Rush, and I'm the Stand With Us National Director of Middle School Education and the creator of the Israel Link curriculum. Over 5,000 students in 235 Jewish educational institutions across North America have strengthened their identity, been inspired by, and connected to Israel through our engaging and educational content. That's the good news. For those young teens whose parents see a value in providing their children with a Jewish education, if it happens to be at a school that has incorporated Israel Link, those students will receive an Israel education as well. So what's the bad news? Those families that make the choice to affiliate and the institutions that see a value to including Israel in their curriculum are a minority. Trying to turn the tide on these frightening trends is challenging, but it is imperative. However, what happened last May make these challenges feel like a walk in the park. Now, compared to my friends and colleagues living in Israel, my challenges were inconsequential. I did not have to try to find my kids at a park and get them to shelter in less than 12 seconds. I did not have to sleep in my clothes and shoes because I knew it wasn't an if, but a when that I would have to jump out of bed and run to a stairwell where me and 50 of my neighbors would be spending the night. All I had to do was answer the phone, which never stopped ringing. Yes, some calls were from teachers asking for additional resources, support material, and the truth about what was happening because they knew they could count on Stand With Us to provide them with the facts. What I didn't expect were the calls from parents, hundreds of them. Parents with little or no affiliation, but who knew when it came to issues of anti-Semitism, they needed to call Stand With Us. Parents who were distraught that their kids were being bullied, shamed, threatened. Unfortunately, we are used to hearing about this happening on college campuses. We are used to hearing about this happening in high schools. It is jarring when one 7th grader says to another, go back to the gas chambers and let Hitler finish the job. And as horrific as the peer-to-peer bullying was, a large percentage of the calls I received were parents sharing with me what their child's teacher said. These were the most chilling, that a teacher or coach could say something in front of a class that singled out a student for being Jewish under the paper-thin veneer of being critical of Israel. For those who will still tell you that anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism, make no mistake. What these parents reported was pure, unadulterated Jew hatred. All of these teachers had to do was couch the language as being anti-Israel to receive a hall pass. So how did I respond? After hearing what happened, hearing about how confused and ashamed their children were of Israel, of being Jewish, and parents asking how they should respond to their children, the first question I asked was, tell me about how you integrate Israel into your Jewish home. I was met with silence. So I tried it another way. How do you talk about Israel with your kids? What have you discussed with them in the past? Once again, silence. I have a newsflash for parents. If the first time you talk about Israel to your children is in the midst of a crisis, when they are being bombarded with hatred, shame, and lies, you are too late. If you can't articulate your why Israel in a way that is meaningful, authentic, and personal, how do you expect your children to discover their Israel? The Israel Link team realized right away that as important as it is to create excellent Israel education for our students, and as important as it is to empower excellence in Israel education with our teachers, we must work with parents to build a strong foundation of knowledge and understanding. That is why we created Israel Link Generation for today's parents. We created a series based on the values taught in Israel Link that give our students' parents an opportunity to discover and articulate their why Israel. We give them the ability to have conversations with their children that are authentic and thoughtful. We will not end anti-Semitism, but what we can do is give our children their identity back. Let them know who they are. Let them be proud of being part of such a resilient people. How can they stand up for themselves if they don't know who they are? How can they know who they are and where they've come from if they don't hear it at home? The Jewish people came from many backgrounds, ethnicities, beliefs, and nations. With our diversity, we are still one family. We share our beginnings. Each journey may have had the same starting point, but took a separate path. Some paths intersected, some changed direction, and tragically, some were cut short. It took countless twists and turns in the paths of your ancestors to get you to where you are today. You are a culmination of collective experience and unique understandings. As a member of the Jewish people, with your own distinctive identity, your journey began back at that starting point. No matter where our ancestors came from, our story all started in the same place over 3,400 years ago. That place is Israel. Being able to share that with your children is the start of the conversation. If you want the conversation to continue, let's talk about signing you up for Israel Link Generations. Thank you.
It is so inspiring that we have a program that engages young teens, which is so badly needed. Thank you so much to Mina and your incredible team for your tireless efforts to inspire students with their Israel connection. As we have seen over the years, anti-Semitism has been growing at an alarming rate. Our team of experts and attorneys has seen a 40% increase in complaints during the past year alone. Now, to speak with us about ways to counter their hate, specifically online, please welcome our Stand With Us Side-Off Legal Department Director, Yael Lerman, in conversation with Stand With Us Assistant Director of Campus Strategy and Research, Elisa Alul.
Thank you, Roz. Hello, I'm Yael Lerman. I'm the founding director of the Stand With Us Legal Department, and I'm going to address legal issues today that you may come across.
Hello, I'm Elisa, and I'm the Assistant Director of Campus Strategy, and today I'm going to speak about best practices for dealing with anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism online.
The focus of this presentation is navigating specific crisis situations like the anti-Semitism online that we witnessed during the May 2021 Hamas-Israel war. We will also address general best practices for educating about Israel, the conflict, and anti-Semitism online. And we will identify when you or your kids or people you know may experience issues online in which Stand With Us's legal department could help. Stand With Us is here for you on all fronts. Anti-Semitism online has always existed, but sometimes it spikes, like in May 2021 during the Gaza crisis. Openly pro-Israel users suddenly found themselves unfollowed by friends, their comments or posts removed, or their accounts threatened with temporary suspension or closure simply for standing up for Israel. Almost all anti-Semitic online messaging has one thing in common. Users spread it using disinformation and misinformation about Jews, anti-Semitism, Israel, and the Arab-Israeli conflict. We've also learned that social media platforms won't help us deal with online anti-Semitism. A recent report found that Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube did not remove 84% of anti-Semitic posts, even though they were flagged as anti-Semitic, and these companies promised to crack down on anti-Semitism. We've also learned that some social media algorithms purposely promote controversial, misleading, or inaccurate posts and cause them to spread. That's why it's up to us to do what we can to fight anti-Semitism online, and that's what we're going to cover today.
These days, all of us are spending a lot of time online, especially our students. So we advise everyone to be selective about how much time they're spending online and how they spend that time. And when dealing with online hate, we recommend prioritizing education, correcting inaccuracies, and holding haters accountable. For everyone using social media, we suggest avoiding giving detractors a platform. This is because when we get into fights online and comment sections of a post, for example, we encourage the social media algorithm that Yael mentioned to bring the post and all of its comments to the top of the newsfeed of every single person who follows that detractor, follows you, and possibly even others who don't follow either of you but are interested in that subject. This only spreads the misinformation that we're trying to fight further. On the other hand, if you see a helpful comment calling out and debunking a harmful claim at the top of the comment section under the harmful post, then go ahead and like it or comment agreeing with it so that that comment will stay at the top of the post. So that at least if someone's seeing that misinformation, they're seeing the comment correcting that misinformation right underneath it. And when you see pages sharing posts in solidarity with Israel and the Jewish community or correcting inaccuracies, take a moment to thank them by liking the post or even sending them a message to say thank you. Especially for our students, it's important to understand the difference between disinformation and misinformation when dealing with online hate, as they are addressed differently. Disinformation is deliberately incorrect and maliciously created and disseminated information. For example, the news station Al Jazeera, which is owned by the government of Qatar, a state sponsor of terror and a major human rights violator. Al Jazeera covers Israel and the conflict through disinformation because they have an agenda from their funding source. Misinformation, on the other hand, is also information that isn't true, but not necessarily because of malicious or harmful intent. In most cases, this is because folks are ignorant. And while disinformation and misinformation may have the same effect, we handle them differently. With disinformation, report the posts and hold those posting accountable, or use those posts as examples to educate those who may be misinformed. With misinformation, we can address it through outreach, engagement, and providing resources. Here is an example of anti-Semitic disinformation online. These are posts that were made by the same exact page in response to the Israel-Hamas conflict in May, and then the situation in Afghanistan a couple of months later. With disinformation, we probably won't get very far by arguing with those who made the original post. They have a clear agenda. But with a post like this, it is best to get creative in calling out the double standard. And we can make a post that showcases why this is a double standard, correct the lies, and share accurate resources for those who are misinformed and may see it on social media. And of course, with posts that promote anti-Semitism or violence, always report them to the platform. And if you notice someone is consistently posting anti-Semitism, report their page to the platform as well. We saw lots of misinformation online in May when influencers who never posted about Israel before started posting about Israel and the conflict or using the hashtag Free Palestine. In cases like these, it's important not to assume negative intent. It's best to assume with these people that they have no idea what's really going on and simply don't want to get left out, especially because these days it almost feels expected of people, especially students, to post about every issue of the day, whether they know anything about it or not. And in the case of Israel, usually they're just ignorant and posting about it because they feel like they have to. So to address misinformation, we suggest reaching out to the individual who made the post in a respectful way to let them know that the post was harmful, inaccurate, and offer to share the facts. Most people don't want to share inaccurate information on purpose, so letting them know in a nice way and educating them can make all the difference. For example, during the Israel-Hamas war in May, one of our students saw that the newest draft to the Niners, the football team, had shared a misleading story about the conflict with the hashtag Free Palestine to his Instagram. Given that this person had never posted about the conflict before, our student determined that he was likely misinformed. So he decided to respond saying, yes, hashtag Free Palestine from Hamas. Palestinians deserve better. Our fellow's judgment was correct. The person responded asking, what is going on there? So with our help, our student sent him some accurate resources to learn more. The Niners draft thanked him for the resources and committed to learn more. Many of our students are navigating the challenge of seeing the very people who post misinformation about Israel online at school the next day. So it's important that as educators, parents, grandparents, and fellow members of the community, we are supporting them. We always advise our students to approach a good friend posting misinformation the same way they would anyone posting misinformation, through outreach, engagement, and education. And if an acquaintance from school is posting anti-Israel or anti-Semitic content online, we encourage them to use their discretion to determine if they want to approach them about it, as they'll have to see them at school every day, and it's important they feel safe in that environment first and foremost. And if someone at school is posting disinformation online, students can make educational posts of their own so that fellow students are seeing a different perspective on the issue and learning more. And of course, they can feel free to block the individual sharing the disinformation from seeing those posts to ensure that they feel safe doing so. And most importantly, if a post with disinformation from a fellow student makes the student feel unsafe, we always encourage them to speak to a parent, grandparent, teacher, or another adult that they trust. And finally, if a student ever feels that a post or a message they get is threatening in any way, we advise them to tell a parent, report it to us, and report it to the police when warranted. We also strongly encourage our students who are active on social media to avoid accidentally sharing their own misinformation. And an example of some tips that we provide to help them identify and share factual information is reading beyond the headline. Headlines are built to tell us what the author wants us to think, and they don't really give us the full story. So we always encourage our students to really read the full story and access support from us. And there are many other resources that we provide them with to ensure that the things they are sharing online are accurate and factual. And we actually created a platform of our own called True Story, which provides quick, shareable, and reliable social media content about Israel and anti-Semitism that we have already researched and vetted for them. So now they get to do the easy part of sharing it online, knowing that it is reliable. Again, it's always best to report anti-Semitism on the social media site directly. And if a post is blatantly anti-Semitic and is not taken down by the platform, make posts and work with us to organize a campaign to call the platform out and hold it accountable. And if you see someone in an influential position, like a journalist or a celebrity, continuously posting anti-Semitic disinformation online, hold them accountable with our help. How? By commenting on their egregious post, making a post of your own, or working with us to launch a campaign to tag their employer, partners, collaborators, and the platform to hold them accountable and ask others to do the same. An example of this is that during one of the Gaza wars, it was brought to our attention that Tal Halawa, a BBC correspondent, was posting horribly anti-Semitic statements online, like the one you can see on my screen. So together with other Jewish and pro-Israel organizations, we launched a social media campaign with posts calling on the BBC to hold Tal accountable. And Tal no longer works at the BBC. So it's amazing to see what we can do when we work together to call out and hold those accountable for spreading anti-Semitism online. And you can also report anti-Semitism to Stand With Us. Just go to our website and click on Report Anti-Semitic Incident, as you can see on my screen. And if your post or account gets taken down for calling out anti-Semitism or promoting peace, make sure to hold the platform accountable by making posts calling them out for taking your post down, or work with a friend or influencer to use their page to call out the platform if your page was taken down. And finally, some best practices that we share with our students and recommend for everyone online to use is sharing posts that are educational, inspirational, meaningful, funny, open, and more, through emphasizing universal feelings and values like overcoming challenges, sharing personal stories, and educational resources. And we always encourage everyone to get creative on social media. The world is your oyster online when it comes to creating content. And there's really so many different options to getting creative in educating people about Israel and anti-Semitism online. And we are here to help with that if needed. And we also encourage our students to join a digital activism session with our amazing digital team here at Stand With Us if they would like to be proactive. So if you have a student at home or in your community that wants to be proactive, encourage them to join one of those sessions.
And now let's move on to some legal concepts as they apply to the online world. First of all, it's really important to remember that we can't do anything without evidence. So if you see something online that could be illegal or you're unsure about, take screenshots, take pictures, save emails and texts. Without evidence, we can't build a case. So some examples of this are write it down, take notes on your device, send yourself an email, take pictures or videos, screenshots, save emails and texts. And if you do have a meeting with someone about something you see online, or let's say a student you know has a meeting with an administrator about anti-Semitism on campus, send email confirmations afterwards so that there's a paper trail being created. And now let's just take a second to remember that what goes online stays online, usually forever. The Supreme Court just ruled on this concept based on a Snapchat case. Snapchat is a social media platform similar to Instagram and Twitter, and it's one of the main areas in which teenagers in particular right now are communicating. In this case, Brandy Levy, who's pictured here, was a Pennsylvania high school student who didn't make the school's varsity cheerleading squad. She was upset, so she posted on her Snapchat story a picture of herself and a friend raising their middle fingers and saying the words F school, F softball, F cheer, F everything. Another student screenshotted the image, showed it to her mother, who happens to be one of the cheerleading coaches at the school, and the school suspended Brandy from the team for a year. So what did Brandy do? She sued the school district. It made its way all the way to the Supreme Court, and the court ruled that the school punished Brandy in violation of her First Amendment rights. Even if her speech was profane and vulgar and aimed at the school district, even if it was posted on social media by a student about the school outside of school grounds, it was protected speech. So what are the relevant issues here? First, we always tell our students, be careful on Snapchat. Whatever you say can be captured. Take evidence if you see anything anti-Semitic. And most speech is protected under the First Amendment. Don't cancel people. Fight back using your own words and strategy. And Stand With Us is here to help you. And I would like to just quickly add that right now there's another case on its way to a court of appeals involving an anti-Semitic incident. So they're taking the Supreme Court ruling in Brandy's case that we just discussed. And in this case, it was some students who made some Heil Hitler type comments, posted it on social media. The student ended up getting kicked out of the school, and he's now suing the school district, and probably the school district will lose, but we're going to have to follow that case and see where it goes. And as for for dealing with things online, another thing to keep in mind is that no matter how horribly anti-Semitic is the speech you're responding to, be careful about what you post online. Choose your words carefully. It's on record for life. And let's just quickly go over defamation. So defamation is a false statement of fact. Opinions can't be defamation. So don't label someone an anti-Semite on social media. You can say that you might find their speech anti-Semitic in your opinion, just don't call them an anti-Semite. And if you're reposting and you're worried about defamation, blur out the person's name and picture. And here's an example of one way that Stand With Us did it. And as long as you're showing that it's your opinion and you're not stating a fact, you're probably okay. And I also want to add that if you have any questions about this, please afterwards, we're going to give you our contact information. Always feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to answer any questions, legal, research, anything. We're here for you. And so once again, I just want to go back to the concept that what goes online stays online. Is something that we try to reiterate to the students we work with again and again. Here's a student, Adam Elayan, a Palestinian American. He tweeted some anti-Semitic stuff when he was in high school and then forgot all about it. When he got to dental school at Tufts, his tweets were exposed. Outraged community members and students, including Stand With Us, contacted Tufts and they threw him out of school. He sued. He was reinstated at Tufts on procedural grounds. And after working with a Stand With Us educator, he ended up making a beautiful public apology to the Jewish community. This is all available online. I'm happy to send you any links to any of this. But it's just an example that whatever you put on there, even if you put it on there as a teenager, now you're in your 20s, it goes up there forever. So just be careful about what you write. And think about privacy settings. Even if your picture is out there without your name, it can be tracked. This is ultimately a personal decision of what you're comfortable having out there. And let's just quickly look at criminal speech. You might think that criminal activity can only be in the real world, say vandalism on a synagogue or a robbery of a home. There can be criminal acts online too. So this is an example. Someone anonymously posted a public Google sheet with the names of Jewish students in a high school district. This is an example of what it said on the top of the Google sheet. It's reminiscent of the lists of Jews Nazis would create whenever they took over a town. Jewish students rightly were scared, and they got the police cybercrimes unit involved. This is not protected speech, this is criminal. Stand With Us Legal sent a letter to the school district. The student behind this was eventually found. And so just remember that you can possibly see things online that could be criminal, take the evidence, and if necessary, do get the police involved. Now, cybercrimes against students are very unusual, but when personal information is shared online without your consent, that's called doxing. It can be your name and address, and it becomes a crime if it's done with malicious intent. You're not allowed to publish or post or even threaten to post other people's private information without their express authorization and permission. Twitter recently made it a violation to even share someone's post from their private account without their permission. So there are times when we should notify a police. Here's an example of doxing in which someone's house, one of our students had their houses captured, and then someone juxtaposed the Auschwitz sign, Albrecht Mach Free, on top of it and sent it as a direct message to the student, who rightly reported to the police, and we worked with the student. This is very unusual, though. It almost never happens. And thankfully, we are returning to in-person learning for the most part, but we still are on Zoom as we are here, and Zoom bombing does exist. I've put a link there on resources to how to prevent Zoom bombing, but just to go over this a little bit, how Jewish students generally are experiencing it. During the pandemic and now with Zoom learning, we see Jewish students being discriminated against on Zoom in many ways. At UC Santa Cruz, a Jewish student leader was not allowed into a public meeting of the Muslim Student Association. They kept him in the waiting room while they discussed whether to let the Zionist in. This is illegal, a total violation of his constitutional rights, and we are in discussions with the university. At other schools, administrators muted Jewish students that spoke out against anti-Semitism, literally silencing Jewish voices. At another school, an administrator disabled the chat box when Jewish students started condemning an anti-Israel resolution in the Student Senate. In this image here, anti-Israel activists at the Silberman School of Social Work in New York flooded the chat box with anti-Israel rhetoric during a Zoom class, and we ended up filing a Title VI federal complaint with the Department of Education about this. So what's the take home here? This is all illegal. If this happens to you, try to screenshot evidence of it. Let us know. We can help you respond. And just some very quick strategies to avoid Zoom bombing is require attendees to register in advance, only send the Zoom link to those who have registered and been vetted, and establish a waiting room. Only let in those who you recognize and know. And we can go on about this forever. Just for the sake of time, please reach out to us if you have questions. And there's also a link here for more information. Same goes with student group online conduct. So what we were talking about here is individual student actions. Unfortunately, student groups sometimes also use the online world for anti-Semitism. In this case, Students for Justice in Palestine at the University of Illinois in Chicago, posted on their official Instagram account an alarming anti-Zionist, anti-Semitic shaming campaign. If you see in the picture, it's hands aggressively pointing at what appears to be a Jewish student cowering on the floor. And if you look at all the different accusations, go back to Brooklyn. I mean, this is just outright anti-Semitism. These online posts created a hostile, threatening, and harassing in-person campus environment for Jewish, Zionist, and Israeli students. This is a violation of the university's codes of conduct and bylaws, essentially the laws of the university. Students and faculty have to abide by them, just like any legal code. In this case, SJP violated their own constitution, which prohibits discrimination and harassment against any person based on race, religion, and national origin. So we wrote to the administration about it, and they've assured us that they're investigating and taking action. We also sometimes see teachers, academic departments, and student governments emailing out statements condemning Israel or posting to official school social media accounts condemning Israel. When they do this, they are likely violating various school policies, especially about listserv usage rules. At Wayne State University this past May, the university president successfully blocked the student senate from using the email listserv to spew hatred against Israel. There is no right for the student government to do this. If this happens at a school that you're affiliated with, please let us know, and we would love to work with you to help the university enforce its own rules. And just so you know, this also applies at high schools.
Another thing to think about is when stores take stands against Israel, they are likely breaking their terms of service or corporate policies. Calling them out on social media can have great results. Here, one of our students saw a local Starbucks illegally displaying a pro-Palestine sign in violation of company policy. They got it taken down by reporting to Stand With Us, and we helped post it to Instagram. So we can also proactively hold groups accountable for anti-Semitism or anti-Israel activity that violates company standards offline, online.
And it's tempting to say that when an anti-Israel program comes to your community or to a campus, we should try to cancel it. But we believe it's best to fight hate speech with positive messaging and counter programming rather than trying to get it canceled. In this case, one of our students saw this event being promoted online and asked for our help in getting it canceled. So let's look at the legal perspective first. Student groups and academic departments have a right to host biased events so long as the event is within their departmental purview and student group mission. So a biology department probably should not be hosting this event. That wouldn't be within their purview. A Middle Eastern Studies department, probably within their purview. This recent event was protected by academic freedom because the right departments were hosting it. So let's not call for it to be canceled. Let's use this event as an opportunity to educate others about misinformation and potentially about the speaker's lack of credibility. And Stand With Us is 100% behind you in helping provide you with the research and information to do something about this event from an educational perspective. And just want to reiterate, instead of canceling offensive speech, let's work together to fight bad speech with good speech. And now just to wrap up, we want to give an example of a way to fight back using social media problems, using real change and using social media as a tool. So here the Qatari government was saying that it would not issue entry visas to Israeli fans wishing to attend the 2022 FIFA World Cup, which is going to be held in Qatar. Stand With Us started an online campaign on Instagram calling on FIFA, the International Soccer Association, to allow Israelis in, not to discriminate. And after our online campaign on Instagram and elsewhere, Qatar said it would begin welcoming Israelis.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today to learn more about strategies and legal resources available to you to fight anti-Semitism online. And we are here for you, so please do reach out to us at legal research and the rest of the team at Stand With Us, so we can support you, your children, your grandchildren, and fellow members of the community in educating about Israel and combating anti-Semitism online.
Wow. Thank you, Yael and Elisa, for that incredibly informative briefing. Please, as they said, do not hesitate to contact us if you need our help or advice. Send a note to legal@standwithus.com. Throughout this program, we took you on a journey from our education in middle school to our support and training of leaders in high school, to our work with leaders on college campuses around the world, and then finally to the empowerment and mobilization of alumni. Every facet of our work touches a different individual at a different phase of their lives. No matter what your needs are, if you want support for the work you're doing for Israel or your fight against anti-Semitism, Stand With Us will be there for you. And thank you for your support of our work. Your partnership enables us to support students and communities all over the world. Thank you. Now we're going to switch back over to our last session of the conference, the closing plenary. See you soon.